Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Some dumb guy here. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Welcome to another episode of Some Dumb RV Living. Episode 4, maybe. We'll see. Because we're kind of rolling through today. And I thought, introduction to my intended next project. And I'm hoping that that actually comes to fruition because this one is kind of multifaceted. Not really a huge project, but cumulatively it might be a bit of labor. So let's break that one down, shall we? Okay. A lot of it focuses on this corner. Now, I technically started this work before I began filming for this series. I intend to take these. This is a Walnutcher Bali floating shelf. They are perfect for paperback books, and they are particularly perfect for movies, TV shows, physical media. Now, this corner here, things down. Did some measurements. When I first got this thing, brought it in, was my move-in process. And for this particular aspect, there's area above the door, measured it across. Apparently, I can fit exactly 2 of those side by side, and it looks like 3 high, with some love. Now, first and foremost, I had this valance that was installed above the door, little dressing, so to speak. That had to go to be able to rest right on top here. So that had to happen, first step. Second step, corner molding here that went to the ceiling, that had to go because I just needed that little bit of extra width, which fell in line that there was a piece of trim up there that I also had to remove because it stuck out about the same thickness. And that revealed this, way up high, 8 feet. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know how that particular kind of thing happens during manufacturing or during previous owners remodeling. I don't know, but that's got to be dealt with, and somewhat simple enough. However, it's going to take some labor. Now, so we got to patch that. We got to do some filling of some holes and things like that, some wood filler, which is ultimately going to lead to some painting before I can put any shelving in. Now, what we hope for, zoom out, zoom in, because I'm grabbing stuff. We're going to end up with, let me see if I can get further away here. There we go. Going to end up with 2 side by side, 3 high. And of course, in the works of that, it's going to be fixing and stabilizing this cabinet that unfortunately floats around a little bit too much. It is not very secure, so I can't put anything in it or on top of it. That's got to be taken care of. Related with, before, after, we'll shall see. Now, we're going to get 6 there. Over here, on the same plane as whatever the top one is, I'm going to come down with some over here. Basically, probably right about there, and we're going to work our way down. That'll still give me enough gapping to pull out from that one corner there. And we're going to come down at least 3 to end up at the same level across. Probably too close to the door here, unfortunately. You know, if we're coming out like so forth and so on, and we try to come all the way down, it doesn't give us a very wide door space. It's possible all this here can get moved over a couple inches, but I don't think I can maintain more than 2 inches of additional overage over that way. Now, that spirals over to here. My entertainment center that I have not yet been able to get put back together and set up and so forth and so on. Now, why is that? One, this area here, in order for me to put the pet door in for the kitties, I had to remove a cabinet that was once right here. Now, once that was out, previous owners had installed this LVP. It's a luxury vinyl planks. So I've got a gap there and about a 1/4 inch of height differential. I have discovered, got to learn what actual flooring was put in here. It is available at my local Lowe's. I'm going to get a case of that, and I'm going to slide this out, remove the ones that were cut to fit around that, and then install and fill that in. Then we're also going to have to do some painting. Paint, contact. So this is the original wall. This is the aftermarket paint or remodel paint, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do that. This little piece of corner trim here, cut off here where the cabinet was installed. That's going to come out and get replaced with something full length. I think I have something already in storage that will work for that. So that's got to be done. This window, it runs down about here behind the entertainment center. I'd rather have the entertainment center than the window. We'll still have the top edge. However, I don't want to see the back of the entertainment center through the window from outside. So we're going to tint that window, dress it up a little bit, and we'll still have some light and everything coming through here. At some point, I may even swap this window out from frosted to clear tinted with a shade for privacy that will be installed upside down, so the shade will go up, and then I still be able to see out and get some light in whenever I need to. Because this whole wall here, at least in the living room area, that's it for 2 windows, and I've just largely blocked one off, and we'll be tinting that, so we'll have reduced lighting and try to compensate for that a little bit if I can. And then that takes me over to the last bit of this. When I remove this cabinet, so at some point this panel right here had gotten wet. It's really hard to get that to show up, but it bows out. You can kind of see the way that that heater register is kind of a little cockeyed. So this heater register, it had some vent ducting that went through the cabinet that was used to be there, and it was mounted on the outer wall. Also on this outer wall was a propane alarm. It detects propane leaks and sounds an alarm if that's the case. That's all. So the register is sucked in and mounted here, and then the propane alarm will get mounted here. I've already marked where I'm going to cut for that to install that, but before I do, I want to remove that register, cut the hole, and I've been doing some homework on wood bending. Apparently steam, I mean, aside from soaking in hot water to the point of saturation, steam apparently is the preferred method, which is probably the only method I'm going to be able to make use of realistically to work this out. So I've got to take this panel off. The furnace is in there, so I have limited accessibility. I take this panel off, I'm going to vacuum all that out, move some few things around, and I got this portable steamer that came in. I'm going to see if this will work. I may have access or issues getting in too deep back in there to be able to do it properly, which in case I'll have to get a different one that's got like a hose attachment that I can reach in there and steam this panel from the inside, because the outside I can't do anything with. It's got that, we're just going to keep calling it contact paper for lack of a better descriptive. It's got that coating on there, so none of the steam that I would apply here would actually penetrate into the wood. And I'm going to do, I guess, is probably take a pair of cinder blocks, set them on this floor, obviously before I do the vinyl work, as weight and pressure. Apply the steam from the inside, push from the outside as things become hopefully pliable, push it in there to a degree that it's going to be as straight as I can possibly get it. Keep the blocks there, pending everything cooling and drying. And then hope it's not a strategy, but it's going to be part of the plan. I'll probably have to reapply some pneumatic staples along this bottom edge, because it did pull out some. You can kind of see where towards the back there it starts bowing out on this little piece of carpet that I have sitting there for the kitties to somewhat wipe their feet off on when they come in from the catio. A little point of access. So you can kind of see it's the back side of it that has got the worst warping, which is the least accessible for me coming through in here, unfortunately. But yeah, so this is, again, like I said, multifaceted, kind of large part, trying to figure out the best way to go about doing all this. It's a lot, but it needs to be done, and not doing any of it is holding a lot of my progress up, because it's a large portion of my TV library that will go there, which a lot of it will come, obviously things are hidden away, but I got stacks of these Walnature Bali floating shelves here. I think I have 16 piled up here. 9 of them will go in that corner, so that gives me a lot of removal stuff. Getting that stabilized gets a lot of stuff off of my desk and off my floor that's been just sitting around waiting for a home. Getting the flooring and everything done behind here and getting to set this up. All this gets loaded with movies, in addition to lots of accoutrements, knickknacks, or whatever that go on top, and boxes floating around. My players, my surround sound system, everything else goes in there. I'm still working on trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to install my speakers. My subwoofer is the biggest problem. I might have to remove this door from this cabinet and slide it in there. I measured it and it will actually fit. I don't know where to put a subwoofer in here. It won't fit up there, it's too tall. And width-wise, I'll have to measure again. But if this stays where it's at, instead of coming this way, I guess it's technically possible I might be able to put it on the floor and, weirdly enough, put the trash can on top of it. But then otherwise, where would I put my trash can? I don't know. So we're trying to make the most of a new living environment. It's a lot bigger than my old, but you've got to kind of reformat things and figure out, how they're all going to work out. You got to kind of restructure everything. So that's where we're at. That's what the plan is, and we'll see how it plays out, and we'll bring you along the journey once it actually officially begins. Aside from the prep work I've done, I think the starting point is going to be to patch that. And that patchwork is going to be done with leftover panels when I cut my hole within the cat door. So we'll get lined up. We'll get the multi-tool and we'll cut along into both pieces of paneling all the way across to get a uniform shape. So I'll have a replacement piece cut, and it will cut a corresponding size hole to put it in there, and then obviously I'm going to have to do an additional section right there. That'll get done. That'll get tacked in with my pneumatic pin nailer, brad nailer, and we'll wood putty up the seams. While I'm doing wood putty for that, I'll fill in all the other holes randomly. I have holes back in here because I pulled out, there was a fire extinguisher down there. I'm going to relocate that. Yeah, and then all the screw holes and everything from the wall that where the cabinet was attached here, those going to be filled. So yeah, there it is. We'll see how it plays out.
So we're going to get a little bit of work done tonight.
I got a pair of these guys in the mail today. These are furniture jacks. Aiding in jacking things up. I'm going to attempt to level and stabilize that cabinet behind me, but since I tend to do everything solo, that was going to be a difficult process because, you know, you want to try to raise the level of this thing, hold it in position while you're running a few screws into it. This doesn't bode very well. You can't see what you're doing. You can't see if you're holding anything in the position you think you need to. And it doesn't go out according to plan. So I found these real cheap, ordered them, took a couple days to get here. I'm going to brace it up and see what we can do. Well, what I've found here, this cabinet seems to be on the same kind of level as the cabinet next to it. How well can you see that cabinet? Not very. That cabinet there. That, when I'm looking at things, appears to be largely, if not entirely, built out of scrap, remodeled by the previous owners here. That one, fortunately, is very stationary, very rigid, no worries there at all. Obviously, this is the one we have to concern ourselves with. But when I put a level along the top ridge, checking this one and then checking this one, they were pretty close. And then also running across one, I didn't see any noticeable slope downward. But it was obviously there. I can see it by looking at the bottom edge. In fact, I still kind of can. So I need to play around with this thing. You can't just slap a level on things and go, hey, I want this thing to be level. Not in an RV, because is the RV perfectly level, left to right, front to back? And is the cabinetry installed level with the floor? Not usually. Not exactly. Not exactly done to the highest of standards. So I'm going to have to do a little back and forth and just kind of see how this thing is going to play out and more or less eyeball it. See what really works out here. There we go. See, right there, that's pretty dead on, which I know is wrong. Because it definitely doesn't line up with the floor, and it's definitely not going to line up with this, which yeah. So this one slopes downward to the left. This one is now largely level. So now going across, it hits. So this end over here, we end up with about a 1/4 inch difference, which is not good. So now is this one right and this one is wrong? I don't really know, but I gotta figure out what's gonna look right as much as what's gonna be right. Yeah, so I'm looking at this cabinet here. I can see all kinds of places underneath and on top where it would have been cut. The side paneling comes up and actually sticks up above the edge of both these cabinets and divides. RV manufacturer doesn't operate that way. There'd be some kind of seam filler. Those things would typically be pretty flush. I would never be able to slide anything side to side across this because that paneling sits up higher than both sides of the cabinet on either side. Plus you've got exposed wood without the contact. There's no trim. There was, if you recall, a little border that went around here, a little decorative thing to keep things from spilling over, presumably. It looked good, but it really wasn't to my liking as far as making this space usable for me. So I opted to get out of it, and I'm going to have to fill these little brad holes with some filler when I'm doing my thing. And get some of that Minwax colored wood putty. That's like a golden oak, I think, matches this stuff pretty well. So they don't match. It's like there's something going on here. Looks like there's I don't know if you can see me from where I'm at, but this piece of trim here I didn't see before has a strip of seam tape running down it that blends in fairly well. I didn't notice it after almost a month and a half till just now. Remodelers after my own heart, some of it good and some of it great and some of it not so much. But I need to decide where I want this thing to go. Wish I had something I could put in there to roll around. The kitties have a ping pong ball somewhere, but it's floating around. I don't know where it's at. See, this is gonna come away from the wall a little bit while I was jacking it up, and I really should probably release it. There we go. Because there's a couple screws that I can access that aren't really dug in. They're going to have an impact on what this thing is doing. So let me get some support underneath it and then remove the two that I can get to. Let's see, square drive. RV cabinetry typically uses square drive screws fairly universally. But these appear to be dual torque, so they're both square and Phillips. So we back those guys out. Actually, let's remove them because I'm probably going to run different holes. The existing ones likely stripped and elongated. With this thing traveling as much as it is, with the screws still in place. What I was curious about was to see what kind of movement would be involved with them out of the way. Kind of splits the difference between level and eyeballed. It's obviously not ideal. When they did this remodel, it said factory stuff set aside, when they did the remodel, they obviously weren't too cautious about getting things level on their end either. They should have probably been a lot more careful about that. This might have worked out a lot better if they were, but the amount of work it would take for me to remove that and resituate it, I don't think is worthwhile. So I'm probably going to cut it. Now, I've got this guy to go in here. I'm going to run it along the top. I'm going to pre-drill 3 holes in it, center it somewhere, shore that up, and then rerun 2 vertical screws that I just took out. I've got a seam in here that I want to utilize. It's probably going to be the most rigid place structurally to put a screw into. Pre-drill the other hole. 1 or 2 holes in there because I don't know how far off from anything I'm going to hit. I don't want to risk running into the original holes behind the cabinet. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to get proper drill bit. And I've got all my holes pre-drilled, all ready to go. Might just add a third screw in that vertical piece later. Takes a little work to get to my little stash of screws I have. Got some sawdust in here now I need to remove. I went and cleaned all this and vacuumed it all out. Now I got dust in there again. Well, maybe that was for the best, because I just found another screw floating around up there. I'll have to dig one out after all. Previous owners lined a lot of these, pretty much all these cabinets with some carpet-like material. Now I gotta pre-drill this other hole, which means sawdust again. Let's take these jacks off and see how stable we are. Oh yeah, that's good. It's flush on the wall. No movement there at all. That's great. Okay, so that part is done. Get to load this thing up now. My next venture, I don't know how well you can see from my angle here. Ah, yes, okay. So, next venture is going to be tackling this hole, which I've already gone over a little bit. We're going to cut some paneling and fill that cavity so we can get this area all painted up and dressed up better. The idea is to take leftover paneling from my cuts from putting in the cat door and filling that void. Some masking tape. I've gone ahead and marked off the depth of 2 panels thickness on my oscillating tool blade. I'm going to lay this on top, and I'm going to do my cut all the way across, which will cut this piece of paneling to the size and shape I need, while also cutting anything behind it to create a void, a cavity for this to attach to. I think my battery died. New battery, new blade, traced over my line. So hopefully now we can get this thing all in working order. Placement pieces come loose. So one thing I was afraid of is that the this might end up being a little dicey. This framework that I need to attach to ends just a little bit too high. Well, it's not going to be quite so easy. My blade is wider, and I need to cut. I need to work that out a little differently. And there's some staples in there I'm going to have to pry out. That's what's holding the old paneling in place. Yay! I forgot how to get that other piece cut in there now. trace that out right there, but I can't. Thing that didn't occur to me when I was thinking about this little idea of mine is I can't really do a vertical cut very well. So I think I'm going to have to cut part of it by hand, but to get the verticals in the paneling that's already in the wall, I think I'm going to have to take a hammer and chisel and just work my way into it. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taped the piece I cut in place, so I know where everything's going to line up as, and tested the hammer and chisel, and it's going through this paneling pretty well. Little unforeseen complication I didn't anticipate was it appears the original paneling on the interior walls seems to be a thinner wood than the paneling used on the exterior walls. I don't know why that would be, but placing it in where it's going to go, it is recessed by, I don't know, maybe a 32nd of an inch by comparison. Once I get this piece chiseled out, it'll sit even more flush. So it looks like I'm going to have to figure out some way to shim that out from the back side before I pack this stuff in with my brad nailer. Let's see what happens here. Well, aside from the depth inconsistency, fits pretty well. I just have to come up with some kind of material to get behind that, hold it out flush when I tack it into place. In the meantime, I got to get the second piece cut. Okay, we have a degree of fitment. Put that in there, like so for the time being, while I brainstorm some kind of shimming material here. But that's that for that step anyway. We can call it clean up. Get to the next step maybe tomorrow, day after, whatever. So this is where we're at right now.
Would feel better, but again, gotta figure out the shim situation.
I came up with what I think will be a solution for my little problem over here. Shims. I had I guess it was probably like a for sale sign. I thought, you know what? Let me cut some of that material up. It ended up like a double layer, but stacked up together with that paneling is going to yield me, looks like just the right thickness. If I can get that right behind the paneling as I tack it in place, everything should come out good and flush. So we're going to give that a try. not absolutely perfect. Pretty darn close. I need to see if I can countersink these staples though, because they're not embedding as far as I like. But I need to cut another piece of plastic shim here to fill that before I do it. This right side needs to poke out a little bit. Uh-oh. I can't see why. Lost my shim.
Well, just one.
That staple there is tweaked all to hell. Should probably pull it out. I'm not going to be able to countersink it. Tiny staple. Tiny and thin and tweaked all to hell. Let's take a little peek. This is where we're at now. That's a little bit rough, but everything is pretty much flush. That left side I think might be sunk in just a hair, but I couldn't do anything about that. That right piece, just a single shim, did okay there. So what we're going to do is start a process of some wood putty along this wall. I think I've got everything countersunk that's sticking out that I can see. So maybe a couple spots here I need to look at. Get some wood putty, let that get all dried and cured, and then sand, prep for paint. But I need to do the same thing with everything back there too.
Alan.